Hi, it's Bobby from Bobby's Baking Blog, and this week, or this tutorial, I'd like to show you my Tufted Heart sugar cookie with the rose in the center. So let's begin. Alright, so now we're going to decorate this, don't want my napkin in the way, we're going to decorate this beautiful Tufted Heart cookie, and we're going to decorate it with the lace OP, which is Orchard Product L3 cutter, or L2, excuse me. And what you want to do is line up the lace heart cutter with the hearts that are on your cookie. Make sure it's lined really well. Kind of get over it. And you want to push down hard enough to imprint it, but not hard enough to break anything. Okay, I did not get all of the look that I wanted, so I'm going to carefully line it back up so I don't get a double line going. Ah, much better. Actually, not on these two. I'll do it one more time. And you want to make sure if you have to reline these up that you're exactly in the same place you were before. You are going to be piping, so if you do double line, you'll be able to cover it up, because we're going to do some brush embroidery and some piping on there. Alright, so now that we have it, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to outline the parts that we are not going to brush embroider. So I know I don't want to brush embroider the heart in the center here. So with a number 1.5 PME tip, and I'm using just white soft peak royal icing to outline my heart. I'm going to let it fall where the heart point comes, and I'm going to add a little bit more pressure to get out the line that I need for my heart, and just go around the shape of this heart, release my pressure, and come down. Now my line isn't completely straight, so I'm just going to nudge it over with my damp brush. The next thing that we want to do is we are going to actually overpipe to do this brush embroidery, and I know that that probably doesn't make a lot of sense. It was something that I did because I wanted these little designs that are in the heart. They're almost like commas. I wanted them to stay raised but still have the brush embroidery, and so I went over it to test it out with a 3, first a PME 3, number 3 tip with off-peak consistency for the brush embroidery, and then I went over it again with my line or soft peak consistency of my 1.5, and it actually turned out pretty good. So with a very light and damped, I call it my brush embroidery or gel brush, I'm going to brush in my royal icing. And as you can see, I still have nice brush marks, but I also have a high raised area. That way I don't have to go back and overpipe it and worry about whether or not it's going to look like it connects properly. And then you do the same thing for the other side. You're just going to give enough pressure that you make a beautiful rounded line that fouls. I don't know what these little things are called. They look like commas that have a heart consistency to them. They don't actually make a heart. They're the part of the cutter that you would take off or out of the paste when you were using it so that you get that lace look. But I really enjoyed how it came out on the cookie. You don't have to be as precise as I'm being because you are going to brush it in, but you do want to kind of have your smaller over pipeline more towards the back than you do the front, just so you keep that raised area going and you have enough of a top of a line when you're brushing so that you don't look like it melted all into the brush embroidery. And we are going to be petal dusting, or actually painting with the petal dust over these. So the lines of the brush embroidery will come out quite nice. So we're all brush embroidered at these little comedy things. And then I went ahead and did a snail's trail around the heart. And I'll show you how I did that. You want to use your same 1.5 tip with the same consistency icing that we have been using, which is, it's soft peak, maybe a little bit firmer than soft peak, but it's not medium peak. You want to make a nice little ball and then pull down and make a tail. You just want to do that around the side of the heart. You're not going to go all the way down to the bottom because you kind of want to follow how your commas are going. And depending on how you did it or how the imprint took when you put it in is how far you're going to go down. Or you could just, if you wanted to, just do the top. And I don't know if I told you. If I did, then I'm retelling you, but I don't think I did. Before we turned on the video, I had already petal dusted this with Fairy Pink, which is the same color that I'm going to be mixing with Everclear to color in all the white spots of my real icing. And the reason I picked the snail's trail, and of course you can pick any border that you want, it has an elegant look towards it, and I just thought this looks so vintage and elegant that I wanted to keep that feel going throughout the entire cookie. So I bet you can guess how I'm going to border the outside of the cookie. When you get towards this part where you're making your turn, and this is where having really tiny hands is helpful. If it gets to be a little bit difficult to get in there, that's what your dampened brush is for. If you find that you're having a problem making beautiful snail trail, just go in with your dampened brush and no one will know the difference. Alright, so now we have that done. We're going to go ahead with our number 3 tip and do the exact same thing. So we're going to pipe a nice round ball like we did before. We're just going to bring it out. And you just want to do this on the edge of your cookie. And we're going to do the same thing as far as petal dusting it with that really pretty Fairy Pink. If you didn't have Fairy Pink, you could use like a champagne color. That'd be really pretty. Or I'm trying to think, maybe a light blue. Any light shimmery color will work. A pearlescent color. I wanted to add a little bit of pink in there because I've been doing so many pearlescent and white cookies and cakes that I just felt like I needed some color going on. So you just want to continue this all the way around the cookie. So we've got our border on, and we have this center piece. So I thought it would be nice to put this little rose in here. And I show how to do this rose in my whimsical Christmas cupcakes if you want to watch that video. The only problem I encountered was that you have this divot and the rose isn't going to quite fit in there. So we're going to fill this up with white. Don't worry, it's not going to show. And then we're going to put this in here like so. You don't want to push too hard because you'll break your rose. And since all roses have calyxes, I am going to go ahead and pipe out with my PME leaf tip, the small leaf tip. I'm going to bring a calyx up from the bottom. So I'm going to squeeze, 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 not moving, and then bring him up as I carefully release so that he comes around. the rose. And when it dries, it will also, I'm bringing this one up just a little bit higher, it will also help it adhere to the little heart bottoms down there, the points. So it serves as two purposes. You get a pretty calyx, and if you want, you can even gently curl it so it looks like the calyx is curling a little bit and opening. But it serves, like I said, as the purpose of helping it stay attached. I would let this dry for several hours before you go and petal dust it or move it around. So you're going to lose your rose and it will break. But that's all there is to it. So now we have this really pretty, let me just make sure I have 5 points because the calyx has 5 points. We do. So now we have this really pretty tufted heart. It's almost like a picture frame cookie that we can give to anybody we want. Alright, so now we're back and we're going to paint the brush embroidery part and the piped heart and the border. So here's the consistency. You don't want it any thinner than this. You could probably go just a smidge thicker. I start out at this because I know that the Everclear is going to disintegrate a little bit. And as you can see, it colors pretty nicely. It's much darker than the color that we put on the fondant and on the rose. So what you're going to want to do is just go through and paint all your areas that are white. And the reason you don't want to go any thinner is you are working with royal icing. You don't want it to melt on you from too much liquid. Also, you want to be able to cover it with a nice color and thick consistency so that it pops. Normally what I'll do is I'll work with the consistency that I have. I will let the Everclear disintegrate a little bit, and if it gets too thick, you'll know because it'll come out bumpy. And if that happens, no worries. Add a little bit more Everclear in and just go over that spot that got a little bumpy. So I'm going to finish one full heart for you rather than going on to the next heart so you can see what I'm talking about, how like your border will pop. Everything just pops right out. So as you can see, I finished this heart right here. I just saw a little space where there's a little white poking through. And it looks completely different than if you look at the one next to it. It just pops at you. So I actually like a white on white look, but I've been doing so much of that that I think people are getting bored with it. Besides, my husband asked me if I would please add some color, so this was my compromise. I actually like it quite a lot. The other thing about this is that if you see a little spot where you left a white in, and as you can see I need to add just a smidge more Everclear, which I just did. That's way too thick right there. You wouldn't want to use that. But you can still use this. And sometimes I'll put just a little bit next to it, and that way it can dip in there. If you find that you left a little bit white, you can go back over it. I would definitely wait till it dried a little bit and just gently go over it. You do not want to saturate your royal icing. The last thing you want is to start watching your beautiful work start melting into your fondant. And for all of you that are asking, or will ask me, do I have to use alcohol? No, you don't. You can mix lemon extract with it. I would make sure that you are definitely not thin, that you're more on that thicker side. But you can use lemon extract. I have even heard of people using rose water. So you could try that if you wanted to. In that case, if you were going to do something like that, I would test it out on, like, pipe a little bit of royal icing on some parchment paper, allow it to dry, and go ahead. But one of my members told me that she used the rose water and it turned out just fine. I have yet to try it, so I can only tell you this is what somebody told me. So either way, you can do that. And we're just going to finish up doing this brush embroidery, and then I'll go ahead and show you the border. Alright, as you can see, I have pretty much painted most of the border. And I am working with a number 0 brush. I wouldn't go for this particular one any smaller because getting into the brush embroidery over here will be fairly hard to cover. And I wouldn't go any bigger because outlining the heart then will become difficult. And then, as you can see, I also tipped the outside of my rose so it would match up. And that's it. So that's our tufted decorated 4 of heart cookie. Thank you.